Welcome to Forrest.Chat SoapBox. We're here today with Daniel Singleton, who is a candidate as a councillor for the City of Bunbury. Welcome, Daniel Singleton.
Welcome to you, Paul, and thank you very much for bringing me on your channel. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. Hoping to talk to as many candidates as I can to ensure that candidates have an opportunity to talk in more depth than they get to talk about in some other venues like Meet the Candidate, where you've got just a couple of minutes, or even on radio, you might be quite limited with what you can do. So this is an opportunity to say a bit more.
Yeah, no worries whatsoever. And to the constituents out there, to begin with, everyone, just apologise for my glasses. There is a bit of a reflection on here. I can remove and go from there, but this is generally what you're going to see me into the general public, so this is what I get for. And if you do have any sort of background noise coming from, I am an active worker, so you are going to hear some plant room equipment in the background occasionally kicking off, but hopefully it's not too noisy.
From my end, it's not too bad. So let's jump into the questions, shall we?
Yeah, no worries.
So the first thing up is your elevator pitch. So this
No worries.
Yeah, off you go if you want to do that.
Right, so anyone that's jumped on this is obviously has a little bit of interest in the people that are running for your local council. My name's obviously Daniel Singleton. I am a candidate here for the Bunbury area and have been based in Bunbury for majority of my life. I am about to turn 40 in March upcoming, and I was raised in the family home, which is still there and still occupied by my mother out in Leschnault some 39 years ago. I've actively had a look at Bunbury for the last 20 years, ever since I started coming into what I would consider adulthood. The first couple of years, we sort of write that off. We don't deal with that in our younger years. But as I started taking a more vested interest in the Bunbury area, I wanted to ensure that Bunbury was going to evolve and shape in a way that I wanted it to evolve and shape. And I was probably a bit ahead of most of my curve in that status, that I actually took a vested interest in my town at an earlier date. My running of campaign is a simple one. I don't advocate for any individual given topic as such. I'm very much along the lines of being a communicator for the people that live in this city. So most people have a very interested thing in what's happening in their city at any given time, and they have an opinion on what's happening in their city, but most people don't know how to voice that opinion and how to have that opinion heard when it actually goes out. And when, or a good example of that for most people is that a excavator will rock up on a project, and that's when people start complaining about what's actually going on in the area. Often that's been advertised for weeks, months, years prior to it, and people just are so caught up in our daily lives that we just miss out on it. And places like the City of Bunbury do advertise for very long periods of time. My goal is to try to figure out why that doesn't work and how to get our local constituent more involved in the things that are actually happening around them. Second one is quite simple, is that I'm trying to get more interest via voting. For most people, the only time you'll have any interaction with your general councils is at a voting period. And then it's sort of set and forget and hope that the city runs the way that it's supposed to run. Problem with that is only about 1 out of 3 people in any genuine constituent actually vote. So my push, myself and for a lot of other candidates, and we're all trying to get that across, is that we want you to vote. 1 in 3 is not a good number, for getting a voice across. And once the candidates are in there, it's too late to complain about it afterwards. Like, you need to be doing this now. It takes 5 minutes. Fill out your ballot papers, stick them back in the envelopes. Doesn't cost you anything, and get a decent returning vote back. That way, at least when it comes out, and if there are a whole bunch of things that you don't like, you can put your hand up and you can raise a muck, because this was not what you expected. This was not what you're doing, and it comes out. And the final one is just to be available. So I run Titanium Car Wash here at Pelican Point. You can come down and see me at any given point. I'm here most days of the week. I'm more than happy to have a chat. My phone numbers are publicly available to everyone because of that. And my email addresses are as well. I will have a dedicated email address set up for if I get on council. So you can send an email through, and I'm going to try to get that ability to be able to reply in a timely manner and take phone calls in a timely manner or respond in a timely manner. That way, if you have a problem or a concern, if I can't answer it, I can track it down for you. If I can answer it, I will. Either way, you'll have someone to actually physically talk to instead of just under the screen. But yeah, that's sort of me in a pinch. If you want to know a bit more about me, the simple factors is that, yeah, I have been here my entire life. I've done little stints in Perth. I've done stunts in Kalgoorlie. I've travelled around all over the world. But for the majority of my working life, I have worked out of Bunbury. I've run everything from the Pret Hotel, all the nightclubs through town. I was a plumber for 12 years, a short order chef. I've done a fair few things in my short 20 years, but they've all led me to a point of where I have the ability to be able to not only know the business side and organize on that, but because they were also socially orientated, I know how to chat to people. I know how to speak comfortably to any given person that comes through without making them feel uncomfortable in the situations they are. But yeah, that's me in a whole.
Fantastic. And you've gone a good way to answering the second question as well. What led you to choose to become a candidate? Or maybe the third question you've answered a fair bit.
So I looked into, I got my first house coming on 10 years ago now, and I bought into Kerry Park, and suddenly I was a homeowner, and suddenly I wanted to do things. You know, I became an invested person in the Bunbury area instead of just a person that lived here. And I wanted to have things like subdivisions done, and I wanted to break properties up, and I wanted to put fences in and everything. And I didn't have a single clue at the age of 32 how to do any of this. You know, like no idea. So I started to look into it, and I went down the same path as everyone else. You know, if nothing's happening, it must be the council's problem. And I soon figured out very quickly that no, that wasn't actually the case, and that the council and the administration are two very different sides of the same coin. They communicate, they chat, but your mayor is not responsible for everything that happens in this town. Your candidates or your councillors are not responsible for the pothole out the front of your home. You know, there are things that we can do, and there are things that we convey and we can advocate for and help, but we are the voice. You know, if we come in as council, the councillors were there to be my voice. And back then, I reached out to councillors on time that aren't here anymore. People like Brendan Kelly, people like the mayor, Brendan, and Jason, our current mayor. You know, I reached out to these people to be able to find out, oh, what do I do? You know, how do I get these things to happen? And the more I dove into it, the more the rabbit hole got bigger, and the more I ran down it, the more I realized that, hell, man, for any individual person of my age, you don't have a flaming clue how your government works. You don't know how the electoral voting system works. You don't know how preference voting does when you put your number down in there. You're just like me. You walk into a polling booth, you look at the names on the page, that looks interesting, you tick a couple of boxes, and that's your contribution towards, you know, the governmental sector of the country, let alone our local elections. And I thought, well, that's got to change. You know, we've got to do something to make that better, because the young people are coming up. We are the ones that will move into the better jobs. We are the ones that will become, you know, stakeholders of WA or Australia on a whole. And if you have no idea what you're doing, then how are you going to make a change for the better? It means that the very, very small percentage of people that do actually take a bit of vested interest, they're the ones that actually run everything in this country. They're the ones that make the decisions. They're the ones that steer the direction. They're the ones that make, you know, any form of growth or demise comes from them. But we all whinge and we all complain, which means people want to be able to do something better and they want to make a difference. They're just uneducated. And our schools haven't taught us. They gave us no inclusive of how to do it. You know, they haven't gone through. Our parents also don't know, so they can't pass on the information down to us. And our local politicians, whether that be at council level right up to state or federal level, are generally too busy to try to inform us of, you know, how that actually works. So I'll start here. I'll start at council. You know, if my political, you know, thing moves down the track in the future and everything, which I have no ambitions at this current point, I'm not politically affiliated in any way, shape, or form. But if it does go to the part, at least I can start at my level, at my local demographic, educate a few people, try to get those voting numbers up. If by the end of my 4-year term I can get voting numbers up and over the 50% mark, I've made a difference. I've pushed it up there. Hell, if I can get them up to the 80% mark, well, I've done better than virtually every other place in the whole of Australia. So that's my goal. That's my push.
Fantastic. That's a great reason to be out there, Daniel. You've been working on that for a few years?
Yeah, so I ran for my first or my first run at council. It would be 8 years ago now, a bit longer. Yeah, so 2, 4, yeah, 8 years ago. So I did run after I started finding out all this information, everything after the first year of me actually looking into all this, and then found out, oh, anyone can run for council. Well, maybe I can make a difference through. I did the same as what most young, fresh people trying to get into council did. I tried to appease my younger voters, and I put my name out there and rallied, my social groups and my things, which at that stage was 32, to jump on board. And I got huge amounts of positive feedback and huge amounts of people coming to me saying, yeah, you're doing a great thing, everything. And then I got to the council votes, actual voting time and everything, and I got the very lowest voting turnout of everyone that ran through. And I made a sound realization that, again, what I wanted to fix was the reason for my downfall. Is the younger people didn't know what they were supposed to be doing. They didn't know how to vote. They didn't know that they had to return it. They didn't realize it wasn't compulsory. They didn't check their mail, and half of it went in the rubbish bin because they thought it was another bit of junk mail. So I shot myself in the foot, to be standard. I learnt my lessons. Second time round, I gave it a bit more of a poke, a little more of a proper run, and I made it about halfway up the voting runs of that side. But then again, I didn't give it the required attention that was probably due for running for a councillor. You do need to put a lot of legwork in there. You get a very short window of when you can make your face known and actually be seen. And so when the votes do come out, someone does actually decide that they like who you are. So I tried a bit harder, but again, didn't get through. I would have gone on the in-between again. Unfortunately, I had family issues to run through. My late father got quite sick at that point, and he did eventually pass away. And it was family turmoil that comes of that. And I had to sort family first, which is what you need to do in this life. And now we've come around for this council elections, and I'm in a far better standing. I'm a far more interactive with the community as we currently speak. And obviously running the car wash here for Pelican Point and everything, my face now has a lot more exposure than it once did to be able to get my name out there and my message out. Social media has obviously taken over a hell of a lot bigger than what it once did as well, which also gives me a little bit better, input into the world.
Wow, that's a pretty impressive story that you've got there. Well done on what you've done so far, and with another round coming up, we'll see how all that good work will come to be.
Time will only tell, as they say.
That's it. So I mentioned earlier the third question, what makes you a great candidate? You have mentioned some things. Is there anything more that you'd like to tell us?
So when it comes to running for council, you need to be active, but you also need to be humble at the same time. So the problem with a lot of the candidates that I've seen running now over the last 4 different campaign runs is that they're promising the world, and part of what rolls back to my original one is that you as a voter need to understand what councillors can and can't actually do. It's part of the reason why I don't advocate for any particular topic, because until I'm actually on council and I then learn the other side of the coin and the inner workings of how that actually works, I can't promise you anything. And as far as I'm concerned, anyone that is turning around and trying to promise you anything might be telling you T-doors, just purely for the fact that we can advocate, we can put our name up for things, we can try to get things moving along, but we don't have any law changing abilities. We can vote on law changing abilities, but we can't go in there and say that this road is going to get new tar seal next week. That's That's not the power of a councillor. We don't have that in our ability. So what makes me a particularly great candidate is that I am trying to learn as much as physically possible about how I can make my role as a councillor benefit you as a voter. So the more I can figure out and the more I can learn, the less mistakes I'm going to make, which there are going to be mistakes. I openly, completely tell you right now, I am going to make mistakes. I am human. I'm not 100% infallible. There are things I'm going to do wrong. But I learn from my mistakes. I don't repeat my mistakes. I figure out why they were caused, and I figure out the ways to make sure it doesn't happen again. So, voting for me gives you someone that is open, is willing to learn, and then hopefully implement that back as a quality councillor. So.
Fantastic. Thinking about different areas that the council gets into, and I'm just going to the middle one because it's easier to scroll across to.
Yep.
What about from a financial management capability perspective?
So, as a financial management,
as someone coming to council, one of the things that council gets involved in is then oversight of the budgets and those sorts of things.
So from this side of my background, so I've run multiple multi-million-dollar businesses. So currently I'm sitting in one at the moment. So car washes are a $4 to $5 million plus business to set up and run. They do turnovers of the $1 million plus mark, and they have budgets that go back and forth. This particular car wash is also run by a large major investment firm called Titanium Property Investment. Which do everything from shopping centers to malls to everything in between. So while this is a single entity, everything I do is from a corporate level, which means that I run through monthly budgets. I run full investment meetings. I do my capital investments and my forecasts. I do full project budgets for this particular site. I also run a business with my father for 12 years as well. So we were JAS Plumbing and Gas Fitting Services. So between those two, we had the ability to be able to do everything from ground up, from the very starting of a project all the way to the end of a project. So which gave us the ability to finance, budget, manage everything from buying of stock to selling and everything in between. So I know how to look at budgets. I know how to look at feasibility studies. I know how to look at strategical planning and management. And I know how to analyze it because this particular role here at Titanium, everything is budget orientated, so and bonus orientated. So depending on how well this business does, is how much money I end up at the end of the year. So I am very much about keeping sure that every single dollar is where it should be currently placed, because if it isn't, it's also comes out of my own personal pocket. So.
All right, fantastic. That's a great background for on the financial side. I've got here current involvement with council. You have actually told us a fair bit about what you've done with council. Is there any more you want to say in this space?
So I've dealt with council from both sides. So obviously the administration side quite regularly over the years. So I know a lot of the inner workings from both the planning, the building side of it, from environmental, from looking at other businesses myself. So I know the structure and the format, and a lot of people already on the administration side of it have dealt with me, or I've dealt with them over the years to be able to achieve things for both this site here and obviously for plumbing, for the Pred Hotel, for Exit Nightclub, for the Back Beach cafes. I have set up and run markets in town as well, so I know from the events planning side of it, and that from the actual direct council side. So I've been involved quite a few times in the public question sections. So you'll be able to scroll back on quite a few of the council meetings, and you'll see me standing in front of the podium with questions for council, trying to get some more information and delving into a bit deeper for people that didn't know and have asked me things around the campfire, or at a cup of coffee over a meeting, or something like that, and they've piped up with a question that I haven't been able to give the answer to. So I roll that back to our local council, so I can then dive into getting some more answers directly from our council members. As for the actual council members themselves, so as I said, I've met and talked with Jason many times over the years. Ben Andrews, who's one of the other competing candidates at the current point, He was actually my celebrant for my wedding. So although I'm running against him at the moment for one of his seats at the current point and everything, I know Ben quite well as well, which would be unfortunate if it so happened that I was the one that took his seat, but so be it, to go to the local voters. So I've had my communications on that side as well. So yeah, I've had quite a lot of involvement with council over the last 8 years, prepping basically for if I do get in, that I don't go in blind. I've got enough basic knowledge for long periods there and everything. I attended absolutely every council meeting. I was the only one sitting in the stands watching the council meeting for a lot of them, because they were just administrational style council meetings. There was nothing special about it. There was no big public topic that was currently running. I just wanted to see how it worked. I want to know how it ran and how they operated, the procedures that they were running for, and to make sure that I actually could commit the time myself to council. If I couldn't be there in the stands, that I couldn't be there on the other side actually as a council member. So if I couldn't dedicate that hour on a Tuesday, a couple of times a month, then there's no point in me running for council, because I'm just going to be another person that's got low attendance rates, which I don't want to be.
Yeah, that's right. Attendance rates are quite important, aren't they? You have already mentioned quite a bit about also your relationship building capability with the work that you've done.
Yeah. So relationship building is the other side of the coin of why I want to get on council. So I've met so many people over the years being here in Bunbury and everything, interacted with business owners, interacted with foundations and community groups and things like that and everything. But being a councillor opens a door, and a very big door. It lets you step into a world that normally without being a councillor you just wouldn't see, because you are now being approached by a lot more of this. You find out the inner workings of what's happening around Bunbury because you're directly a part of it. You can only reach out so much to figure out what's happening in Bunbury. If you're not part of those inner circle groups, then you just don't find out about it. So transparency will come from that. If I can get into council and I can be on council, anything that I found out will end up on social media. Anything I find out will be going out there. I will be trying to push out as much as physically possible into the community. So again, when things come up that do require people to get involved with it, it actually happens. You do get some feedback. You do get surveys happening. You do actually get a real representation of what the community wants on any given specific title. So I want to build a hell of a lot more relationships all the way through Bunbury, and that's a big council reason.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. So I've got 4 different scenarios that regularly come up in council meetings.
Yep.
Or within council, so that they need to make decisions and those sorts of things. So for the given scenarios, what do you see as the council's role, and what drives your voting position? So these are examples that are going on around the place. Excuse my wobbly scrolling there. So the first one is there's a newly proposed high-density development impacting amenity for residents in an existing low-density estate.
So the council's role, this would be brought before the council for the base reason is that it wouldn't technically be allowed to go into that location to begin with. So a high-density development in a low-density estate would generally mean the zoning is incorrect for that to be there. So that's why it would become before council. So anything that falls outside the realms of what is already set up in the guidelines for the administration is what ends up coming before a council meeting. So basically, if the area allowed for high-density development, then the council would never hear about it, because it would go through the normal routines and regulations that the administration deals with. They'd have to apply, they'd have to go through all their regulations, and then it would either get passed or denied in the administration's capacity. If it was denied in the administration's capacity, then they would have the option to then bring it before us as council members. And that would then allow us to make a decision as to whether we think as council members the administration's decision was incorrect, which gives us a small ability to override what they've done. But if it comes towards the administration and it was never allowed in the first place, then generally it will be objected to immediately by administration. It will come to us straight to us because it just didn't meet the guidelines of what could be run through. So that's our council's role, is to vote on this as to whether we think as a councillors as to whether this is actually good for this area. Will it be beneficial for the community on a whole to have this in this particular location? So then it comes down to my personal voting rights. So my personal voting rights is that I would then look at what's been presented to council from a statistical point of view, from the feasibility studies that would have been done by whoever is proposing this development to go into the place, and how they think it's going to impact the area and why they think it's a valuable thing in the area. So that's from their point of view. The second one would be legging it. So I would be attempting, especially if it's a fairly large, proposed thing that's going to cause a lot of impact. I would be going and speaking to the residents in that general area that's going to be impacted. I need to know what they think. Why would they object? Do they even know that someone's presenting this in the first place, to give them a chance to be able to, come down to the council building and say, hey, I don't want this. When's the public objection time coming in? Because I want to object to this. That way I can get their voice known and everything, and I can then get some feedback generally from the community, because I am a representative of the community that this is going to be impacting. And then from that, I will brace into my own personal opinions. So, and I try to take these out as much as possible, because they tend to cloud decisions, your own personal, thoughts on topics. I want to keep this two sides of the coin for a lot of decisions that I do. What's best for it, and why do they want to put it in there? But obviously, my personal opinions are impacted by what I've dealt with in my entire life. As a plumber, I've seen high density development in areas. I've seen what it does. I've been in there to make repairs and do stuff. So I then have to look at it from my personal point of everything. If this particular development was to go into that particular area in Bunbury, and I know that particular area, what's it going to look like in 5 years? What's it going to look like in 10 years? What's it going to look like in 15 years? This is going to be here much, much longer than I am as council. So my decision is going to have a long roll-on effect if I agree or deny this. What's it going to do? So I'll then take that into consideration. And then finally, I'll sit down probably with a glass of whiskey on a Friday night, and I'll think about it. And I will roll it around in my head for a good hour and everything to figure out what it is. Then I'll go to the council briefing, and then I'll bring my opinions to the rest of the councillors. And I will voice my concerns to the rest of the councillors as to why this is a good or a bad idea, and then do my role as a councillor to try to sway them in the same sort of decision as what I've come to after all my research and my run through. And then the following week we vote. And I will put my hand up towards that, obviously, to either yay or nay for that particular project.
Sounds like you've put a lot of thought into how you want to work your process.
Yeah, definitely. So I've had enough time to figure out, how I can be a good councillor. How I can personally represent given topics. Now, in saying that, while this high density thing comes to council, there might be 15 other things that come to council at the same time. So I do also have to delegate. So I have to delegate my time, my process, my effort to everything as much as physically possible, while also, working a full-time job and juggling a 9-year-old kid and my wife, and a dog that wants to go walking, and still live and have a holiday and breathe, somewhere in between that. So I don't pity people above me in higher political roles such as yourself, because I just at this level, I can see the level of demand that I need to put into it to ensure that I'll be doing as best a job as I can, compared to people that are at a much higher level, as running on a state level as yourself. That level of commitment, I absolutely take hats off to anyone that's willing to put their hands up for those particular positions.
It's not always what it looks like on the surface.
No, yeah.
All right. So the next one, this one's not technically in Bunbury at the moment. It's actually happening in Bustleton.
Yep.
But restricting dog access to parks and beaches.
So again, you've got to look at this from a two-sided point of view. So why would it be coming to council in the first place? And why is it a good or a bad topic? So coming to council for the first place, I can understand 100%. I own a dog. I know exactly why people would be why it would be brought up in front of council to try to see whether this is a good idea or not and everything. I wish everyone was responsible. I wish everyone did the right thing, but I guarantee there's a good percentage of people that don't pick up their dog poop. It's on the beaches. It's gross. It's out there. These are public open spaces. These are where everyone else wants to be. If you want to leave dog poop all over your front yard, be my guest. But when you're out in the general public, it's not hard to take a dog poop bag with you. You pick it up, you put it in the bin. It's not a big request. But unfortunately, because this has been happening for a long period of time, and Bunbury beaches see the same sort of thing, not as bad, thankfully. It's pretty good up our way here, where most people are fairly responsible. But if it had been done the right thing, this probably would have never been something that would have been brought to attention as a potential option. So then you've got to look at the second one. Everything, does restricting dogs from a park or a beach actually solve the issue, or does it just piss off a whole bunch more people? What's causing the issue as to why this park or this beach needs to have dogs removed from it and everything? If it is because there's poop all over the beaches and everything, what is causing that factor? Is it just people's laziness, or is it the fact that there are no dog bags available in the general area? Are the bins too far away? Do more bins need to be put in? Does the council need to look at this from a completely different angle? Is there a reason why dog owners aren't doing their duty? Is it just, laziness, or is it because we haven't put the right facilities out there for them to not be lazy? Does it require a bin to be every 20 meters? Maybe. Does that mean the ranger's got to pick up, or the bin people need to pick up more bins? Potentially. Does it mean that the beach is now available for the rest of the 30,000 people out there? Well, yeah. You've got to look at everyone, not just the few people that are worried about the dog poop, but also the people that are actually walking their dogs. So, yeah, it's a multifaceted opinion, and I hope that for the Busselton Council, at least, and everything, all those council members down there, they really do their due diligence and spread out their fingers, not just to look at this as a simple question as to why all the other questions are involved in it. And I hope that their administration provides them with enough information that they can make an educated decision, and they reach out to the community so they can find out what they actually think.
Yes, it's very interesting that sometimes that question doesn't get asked about, what actually is the issue. Is there a problem of some description, and this is just the symptom?
Yeah, well, my job, and has been for many, many years of any position that I go into, is figuring out why a problem has occurred, figuring out how I fix that problem, but then preventing the problem from reoccurring. It's the one that gets missed out on, and especially for plant room operators and that sort of stuff and everything. It's very easy just to replace something. It breaks, replace it. Break it, replace it. Break it, replace it. That's not causing or fixing the cause of why that occurs. There's always a reason why something breaks. Can you make it better? Can you fix it? Can you find the cause and the root of it? Can you solve what's actually making the thing break in the first place? That dog one is an exact example of that. If it's a problem, what is causing the problem, and how do you fix the problem? Don't react to the problem. Figure out what causes it in the first place.
Yes, I like that perspective. Okay, so another one is several local businesses apply to extend sidewalk dining areas. So
this does occur in Bunbury, and it happens quite regularly. There are places up and down Victoria Street that already have this in place. So we have Mojo's. We've got a Market Eating House and things. Benesse's has got some space out there as well. So there are quite a few places that are up and down Victoria Street that have applied for this. So it is within the jurisdiction for the council to look at this as an option. Thankfully for the City of Bunbury and everything, we've actually made this an administration task at the moment. So the only reason, again, that it would come before council would be that if it was denied by the administration and the business owner thinks that they've been unfairly denied the position, or they just want to go over and above what the administration has done. If it did make it to the council, well, obviously, again, for the same as the last couple of points and everything, I would have to analyze, review, discuss with the business owners, but also discuss with the people on the street. Personally, I'm all for extending dining areas onto sidewalks, as long as it's done correctly is the biggest one. Running hospitality for so many years, you can have people dining out on the sidewalk. That's no problems whatsoever, as long as it doesn't interrupt traffic going past. It is great for both the people that are on foot traffic and the business. People that are on foot traffic get to have a visual inspection as they go past of what they're looking at. Oh, that food looks pretty good. I might step in there and have a look. As for the business owner, they can get to demonstrate their food. This is what we're presenting. Look how great it is. Come in and see us. So yeah, I am all for, and I would probably be pretty pro to any particular business that wanted to go over it, but I would do it in such a way that I would still review all the information prior to it and figure out why it came to council in the first place, as to why it was denied in the situation that they particularly wanted.
All right, fantastic. And this next one actually was an example out of Harveyshire. A sporting group that leases council-owned facilities applies for funding actually from the council to expand their kitchen and dining facilities to commercial grade.
So, yeah, this is it's a hard one purely for the fact that, yeah, it is a leased space. So if you're going to look at it as a leased space purely from a commercial leasing point of view, if you wanted to expand your business in a leased space, that's your problem normally. So if I was a regular Joe Blogs and I leased out somewhere on Victoria Street and I decided to open up a restaurant to run there, if I wanted to put a kitchen in, I would have to put the kitchen in under my own expense, under my own run and everything things. However, because this is a council lease location and it is applying to a sporting group that runs through, then yes, you would need to look at it from a, does this benefit the general community? What does a sporting group provide for these facilities? How many people does it service? Does it have the ability to be able to be upgraded to a commercial space? And if they are asking for commercial upgrade, why are they asking for the commercial upgrade? Are their facilities at the current not good enough to serve their local sporting group? Are they looking to capitalize on this particular project to be able to make more money for their sporting group? Or is it something that they're looking to do as a secondary, that it's obviously at a sporting group facility, but are they looking to lease it out that's going to benefit other councils and other communities rather than our community? If some of those things came back no, then I'd have to probably object to the particular decision. If they came back as yeses and positives towards our community, then I'd probably be full supported for that particular item. But again, I am a representative, I hope to be a representative for the City of Bunbury. So my best interests are 100% for my 30,000 people here that are my ratepayers. The people in Harvey should be doing the same for theirs, and the people that are, in Busselton should be doing the same for theirs, and the ones for Dardanup the same for theirs. We should be able to agree on things that are going to be communally whole on the whole affair. So if there is something that's going to affect two different sets of councils, those councils should be coming together on the decision, not just one. So if this sporting ground, for example, was held on our South Bunbury grounds here in Bunbury, but it predominantly was supporting groups from Harvey. So they were from Eton that were coming in using our grounds because the facilities weren't good enough in their particular demographic to be able to support the necessary things. Okay, so we need to now approach Harvey and say, well, look, our demographic is currently looking after your demographic. We're taking our ratepayers' money and supporting your ratepayers. Like, we're happy to do that. We're a city and we're the hub, but we may need a hand from you because this goes well above what our ratepayers should be paying for. We're doing things for your ratepayers now, which means how do your ratepayers intend to support us? If you can't, then, and Jason McGill's not going to like me for this, but then you look into the systems of like our Southwest Sports Centre. Our Southwest Sports Centre, and again, this is a close to the home thing, but a little bit outside the question as such, but we have swimming pools at our Southwest Sports Centre, and we service the Greater Bunbury area, and the Greater Bunbury area incorporates two other shires. So we service Dalyellop, we service Eton, we have people coming in as far as Harvey to use our services and facilities. Yet that entire sporting ground is funded by the 30,000 people that are only here. So either you reach out and you help, which is what Jason is for, and I'm all for, or if you don't want to help out, then you should potentially be looking at services in your own area to be able to boost and bolster that. So they're your two options that you need to be doing as a councillor. All
right, fantastic. That's talking to councillors in the Bunbury area. That's not something that's been raised by others at this stage. So that's an interesting perspective. All right, let's move on to the next thing. The council seeks to increase economic activity within its borders. How do you propose for the council to facilitate the growth? Now, there are two sub-points to this, and they are the characteristics of the council that you see can contribute, and where does the economic growth come from? Like, who creates it?
Right. So yeah, it's good that it was split into a sort of two-pronged question. So when you're looking at trying to increase the economy of a particular area, demographic, a business, whatever you're looking at in the process, you need to look at it from a fundamental view. So the fundamental view is, what am I offering as a service? So what does the City of Bunbury offer as a service such? So we offer housing, we offer industry, and we offer tourism. On a side note, we offer a port as well. There are things that we sort of offer to the demographic of Western Australia. So if we want to increase it, we need to first figure out which of those particular things we're going to focus on to increase. Diversity is great, and I love diversity, but it's very hard to focus when you only have ratepayers of 30,000 people coming in to equally give attention and money to all of the topics that are currently in the City of Bunbury. So far, we've done a really good job of promoting our sporting side of it, our tourism side of it, in that particular manner. We do a bit of support towards our port at the current point. Our industry is probably lacking a bit, although it is our biggest income for Bunbury from an economical standpoint. We don't actually inject a lot from council administration into that side of it. From my point of view, I come down to tourism. So obviously I have a hospitality background. I see what tourism brings. I see the money that tourism drives into a town and into a city. And I look at Bunbury as very similar to what Fremantle and Rockingham were 20, 30 years ago. So both had ports, both were cities in their own right. And so one focused on their industry and the other one focused on tourism. And I don't know about you, but I know which one I would currently rather be in at this current point. So Fremantle and tourism is a far nicer place to visit than what it is Rockingham. And there's nothing against, I don't want to knock Rockingham in any way, shape, or form, but Fremantle is a tourist town. It's voted that way. It just won awards for that. It is the place to be. So we've been bypassed. We have a bypass around us now. Now's our real decisional point as to where we want our economical growth and how we want to make ours grow. Bunbury currently is focusing on tourism. We are trying to push, for that to come into it. Again, we have $30,000 worth of fund, 30,000 people's worth of ratepayers and everything. So there's only so much we can inject to that. So we now need to move to a state level. We now need to look at taxes. How do we use tax-paying money to be able to generate growth in our area, in our local space? We are in a hub as well, as I've previously pointed out, which means that we need to reach out to our fellow councillors around the area and say, well, look, we are the hub. We will grow faster than what you will. That's going to occur. We can't stop that. That is going to be through. We don't want to fight you. We don't want to fight you for funds. We don't want to fight you for grants. We don't want to fight you for income and everything. Let's work together as independent groups for our individual ratepayers, but together as a whole for a community and a state level area. So we can then make sure that the services that we are providing in Bunbury don't just benefit our particular constituent, but benefit all the other constituents. And how can you bring something to the table to help that work? Let's go to the state to government as the greater Bunbury area. Let's get a grant that runs through everything and show that if you put $30 million into our sports centre, everyone in the Southwest is going to benefit from that, not just our little portion of it. So yeah, that's probably answers both sides of the question, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. The next element of that question, of course, is the proposal for funding. Then, if the council's actually going to put into it and invest in it, I'll say. So they'll need more. So you talked about sharing and bringing on board other councils. And also going to the state government. So maybe the two sub questions are maybe the most relevant at this point. So what is it about your proposal that will attract the funding needed to support the initiative? Now, you haven't got a specific one necessarily, but conceptually we can reach that. And then the other one is about like how challenging it would be, what might the chances of success be in going about it that way?
So I look at this from a point of running function rooms over the years. So I use that as a reference point. So I've seen that many meetings being held by businesses over the years of people coming in trying to discuss new project groups or committees that have come in, or community groups that have come in, and they've got their, similar to a council, 12 members, 10 members, 15 members, or whatever they run in their particular group. And they come to the table, and it's a bitching mess. Yeah, they are fighting each other, and try to get 12 people to agree on any particular topic, and everything is fighting hen's teeth. But then we bring the snacks out, and we put the snacks down on the table for the people that have come through. And everyone gets up, and they're all over to the snack table 100 miles an hour, and everyone's enjoying the snacks. And they're all discussing on how great this tastes, and oh, this is really good, and oh, this is, oh, and this room is amazing, and this is great, and everything. And then they go back to the table and they start complaining to each other again. So it's not that common ground can't be found. It's just that the particular way that common ground is currently sought often doesn't work. So reaching out, as I said, trying to get community groups and stuff to come to the table. Everyone wants their piece. Everyone wants to have their say. Everyone has their individual particular thing. But the end goal is, the same as getting up and eating from the cake stand. Everyone wants a piece of cake. Everyone wants to go across and eat that piece of cake. They're all agreeing that the cake stand is good. We want the cake stand. So the question is how do we make the cake stand an accessible location for everyone in the particular area? So yeah, rounded about the question there, but the answer to that is being able to find out what everyone wants before it becomes the discussion point, and then finding a common denominator between all of them that can be a working point group for all of them to come together. So if you come to the table and you're trying to get something passed that that you want and half the rest of the table doesn't want, what out of your particular project would be appealing to them? So don't worry about the whole project at this current point. Just get everyone at the table to agree first on something, anything. Then slowly expand your idea from there. For economical growth, in Bunbury, for example, we have so many vacant properties up and down Victoria Street. We have 62 vacant properties at the moment, commercial properties. But it's not a uncommon thing. So our particular one is that we're bitching, complaining that we need the money here in the city of Bunbury because look at us and we're dying and everyone's sorry. Yet if I go up to Fremantle, it's the same case. Or if I go to Rockingham, it's the same case. If I go to Boston, it's the same case. I go to Dunsborough, it's the same case. There are vacant shops all over Western Australia and Australia in whole, especially in the centre CBDs. There is a problem there. There's the unified cake. The cake is that we all have the same problem, but we're all fighting over, how we get, our piece of it in the cone. So we need to look at it as a whole to begin with and figure out what the common denominator is. Common denominator is that all the properties are empty. Why are all the properties empty? How do we solve that as a cause? They're empty because of simple things like, you can buy everything on eBay now, or Alibaba, and it's shipped directly to your door. How does a business compete with that? Okay, so we need to figure out, how do we help that as a council? How do we help our local businesses combat that as an issue? Don't worry about the empty store. Let's figure out how we combat the fact that they're not getting anyone to the store in the first place. Fix that problem first. Second one is, things like Bunbury, which regularly comes in, is parking. Yeah, everyone drives these days. It is not a world where we all run in buses and everything. I wish it was. It would be much a better place. But you need to be able to park somewhere in town if you want to do shopping. So if you're not going to be able to park in town, then how are you going to get to the businesses? So let's solve that from a council issue and run through. And then finally, we go through to the last one is that, and I raised this at the Bunbury Commerce meeting just recently, was that I am an average Joe Bloggs. If I'm going to go and invest in a business somewhere and try to get my growth, which is going to put better things, I need to basically commit my entire life to it. I need to put all my money on the line. If rent is $40,000 a year, that's my entire life. For a bigger business and everything, they just write it off. They're like, that's rent, everything. But if anyone's coming into a new sector that wants to use a new space and grow the economical growth in that area, then you can't afford to do that, or you're so scared to do it that you don't want to move into the space because you're worried that everything you have will go under. It will be gone. So yeah, it's a multi-pronged attached to any particular item that comes in front of trying to make economical growth better, is that look at the causes of why it's not working to begin with, or look at the fundamentals of what is common between all the things and then bring that as a proposed economical growth. When you can get majority 60, 70% of people to agree on how something should work and run through and everything, it will fluidly by itself evolve into something that makes money. It will grow. It'll work into something that is worthwhile. If you're all fighting over the piece of cake, it's not going to work. So, yeah.
Excellent. That's a really interesting and thoughtful way of approaching the issue. That's excellent. All right. Shall we move on to the next?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next one is your position on these things. So I've got 5 of them, and these are things that may or may not come up at council and may or may not be contentious. So I'm not looking for you to describe in detail any real aspect of it. It's more a case of do you support it or not, or do you support it with some proviso? All right. So the first one is drag queen story time in our libraries.
So, okay, we're a fundamentally different world than we were 10 years ago. The situations that we currently deal with on so many different fronts, if I had told you 10 years ago they would be where they are now, I would have been laughed out of so many different situations, because it's just it's such a different place. I'm not negative against having any particular demographic in any particular area, assuming that it's not harmful to us in any way, shape, or form. But if a person decides that wearing the opposing gender's clothing is the way that they want to live their life, then who am I to turn around and tell them that they can't do that? If someone decides they want to wear a skirt and dress up in makeup, then so be it. They're completely run. Does it belong in a public library? Well, yeah, especially if it's a story timer and everything. That is fantasy. That is story. That is, something that is interesting and different. Will it draw more people in to be interested in books and into the library space, which is what it's trying to do? Absolutely. Will it raise, a public agenda about it, over the course of it, and raise more attention towards that particular library? Yeah, probably will. I guarantee the attendance rate's gone up. I guarantee the more interest in that library's gone up. They're probably doing better, as a library than anywhere else that's around the area. So, yeah, I have no objection to it in any way, shape, or form being occurring.
Okay. The other one is welcome to or acknowledgement of country.
Yeah, so this one was originally put into place and everything as a sign of respect. It was there to be given back to the people that were the original custodians of Australia. They were the ones that here and started, Australia, or they were here as far back as anyone can remember or record in time. The problem with it's come now, and you'll speak to a lot of people that it's supposedly acknowledging and everything, is that I think it's a joke. Because the problem when it comes to the country of acknowledgement of the rest, it is that it's not an acknowledgement or a welcome to the country anymore. It is a mandated speech that is at the start of any particular meeting, ceremony, or run through. It is not heartfelt. It is not from the heart. It is not giving them directly the acknowledgement of who they are or what they were. It is not respected in the way that it should do. So at the moment, it's just words, and it's probably less less of what it was supposed to be accomplishing because of that, because it's just now brushed off as something that's, oh, we're just doing that, aren't we? So I absolutely, in every way, shape, or form, think that we should acknowledge and we should, absolutely give back towards the people that were originally custodians. I don't particularly think this is doing it, to be on my point of view. So,
all right, no, that's fantastic. Thank you. The next one is biasing council purchases towards local businesses.
Well, a council should never be biased. That's just a straight up direct answer to that. So this question should not occur. It just shouldn't exist. So anything that is considered biased, if you are a person of the ratepayers things and you think something is being biased and everything, you raise that damn quickly. You bring it directly before your administration, you bring it for the council, and if no one listens, you take it to the newspapers. You take it to the radios, you take it wherever you want and everything. Council is not a biased location. We are supposed to be the complete utter opposite. We are supposed to look at everything in a information-only point of view. We are supposed to take the facts We're supposed to make decisions particularly on those facts and what is going to be the best for you as a person that lives in this general area. So if we're going to purchase businesses, it has to be done because fundamentally it is the best decision for the ratepayers in the City of Bunbury. It should never have anything to do with a biased opinion. So,
all right, fantastic. The next one is the Shire buying and selling land or properties within the Shire.
Right. So this rolls back to one of my original things at the starting of it, is that council and administration are two sides of the same coin. So the council is there to represent you as the people, and the administration are there to run a business. Our administration is a business. We have a CEO. Whether you like that or not, that is the fundamental of how councils and shires are currently run. They are run in a structured format like a business. They have a capital expense. They have ingoings and outgoings, properties and losses. So it is run like a business. If it is in the best interest of that business and the CEO makes a decision to sell, then they will put that item towards the council. That's where we get involved. So that item then comes to the council as to whether we think it's personally a good idea and whether we review the numbers as such. They, as a business, will put everything through. We are their landlords in the respective term of that. They can't do it without us saying yes. They can definitely propose the idea. They can run it forward towards us, and they will bring it to our attention if they think it needs to be done. And then as council members, it is our decision to take all the information and then make an educated and unbiased decision on whether that should be sold or whether that should be bought under the guise of the City of Bunbury.
All right, fantastic. And the last of these ones, when the evidence presented is not the full story.
So I had a conversation literally this morning with Michelle Steck, who's one of the candidates for the City of Bunbury Mayor, run through. So she called me, advised me of my pamphlets going out at the moment, didn't have a phone number on them. And she said, well, how are people supposed to get a hold of you? And I realized immediately that I'd made a mistake on that half my run through, and we've got other details on there, but no phone number, and a lot of people only still rely on phones. But we had the conversation. It went for almost an hour, chatting away. And one of the things that came up was transparency. So, which is a fundamental push on my point, is that transparency is the only way you come to a true unbiased decision. If all the evidence is not placed in front of you, then how do you make a educated decision on the topic? Now that goes for councillors ourselves. If we get on, and do that, we need to be presentable information. But part of that information is people of the general ratepaying area coming to us with their decisions and their thoughts and their opinions on the particular individual item. So if the transparency doesn't begin at that level, and they aren't informed about something that's happening, and they don't give their opinion, then how have we been given all the evidence that is required to make an informed decision as a councillor? So you've got to take it back again, figure out the cause of the problem, why all the evidence hasn't been presented, go back a few steps and everything as to why we don't have enough evidence or why it hasn't been put forward. Now, if a decision is made and all the evidence was supposedly presented and new light comes to evidence, new stuff comes to the table down the track, then I absolutely believe that should be revisited as a point of priority. So the same as what the court systems currently do. If new evidence is entered, even if a verdict has been done, there's a chance for an appeal. There's a chance for something to be re-advised for it. So if there is a fundamental piece of evidence that comes in that has the potential to sway what decisions of a councillors had done in the past, then that council topic should be reopened immediately and then re-advised and the vote retaken to make sure that again is still the decision that the council has come to.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much for that. That's the series of questions that I've got. Let me just get up and so before I move on to closing out the show, is there anything else that you would like to put out to electors?
No, so the easy recap, from our little discussion that we were on from is that, council ballot papers will arrive in letterboxes for most shires and states probably about Wednesday of this week, maybe Thursday. Statistically speaking, looking back on the history, most people are going to put their vote in the first 5 days. So probably by this time next week and everything, anyone that's going to have voted properly has already voted. So now is the time you need to be paying attention. Now's the time you actually need to look at the people that you're potentially voting for, because most of us are aware of that, is when we're going to put out the most possible information about who we are, what we're doing, do shows like this, and get our names out there so you can make an educated decision. Again, 1 in 3 people only vote. It takes 5 minutes, please. For the love of money, and this is not compulsory, and I understand it's not compulsory, but this is the most governmental decision that you can make as a general ratepayer. It is going to have the most effect on your day-to-day lives. You could miss out on every other election that's in the country, and this one will have the most effect. State level, care about state. Local government care about us here, right now, at this particular point in time. So when you get people on, make sure that who is here and what we're doing are the people that will represent what you want the most, that are going to hopefully take the opinions for you the most, and then you can have a voice, and you'll know who to be able to contact when they're on council, and we can get Bunbury shaped into something that everyone wants. So
wonderful.
No dramas.
Thank you very much. I'll move into the outro then. So for all listeners, we'd hope that you would share the Forrest.Chat Forrest.Chat Soapbox links. They're in the description. You can, if you go to Forrest.Chat/Soapbox, get emails put out by the channel. And if you happen to be on Facebook, then when you... Whoops, I didn't like that. When you make a comment on the posts, if you use the @highlight symbol, that will help share that with people that you know. So
yeah,
that'd be very much
putting that out there for everyone that runs through. So there are a few people that are running for council that have jumped on board with Paul already. From this particular council, I highly suggest that you do jump on this if you've seen mine, to view the other people that are on there. Like, I'm not a self-interest promoter here and everything. I do want you to vote for me, but I want you to educate your vote. So this is a really good medium. It's a big thanks out to Paul there for doing this channel that gives the ability for people to be a little bit more vocal and voice, especially for people that don't have access to Facebook, but might be on YouTube or on Rumble or on other locations. So yeah, make sure that you do spread the word, and in a couple of years' time when this happens again, this would be a great platform that hopefully all the candidates jump on.
Yes, very much so. It comes from me personally having to vote in the 2023 local government elections and looking at the list of people on the page and going like, I have no idea who these people are. So am I actually going to be voting for what I want, or I was rather in the dark? So that's where this has all come from.
Yeah, it's a great initiative. So
yeah, thank you. I do have a transparency statement, and that's in the introduction video that's on the channel. So those links will be down in the description as well. So you don't actually have to watch the video. You can read the description or the transcript. The transcript is the description. So,
and because that is being translated and everything, I do authorise it as a person, Daniel Singleton from 31 Strickland Street in South Bunbury. That is found on the pages as well. You're going to see that a lot around for all the things you advertise. So it is a compulsory thing for us candidates to be able to put who we are, and that we authorise and where we're from. So you are aware that the stuff you're reading is real and it is actually from the person who's done it. If you don't see that on a particular post or on a particular page, or it hasn't been announced and everything, be wary about what you're reading, listening to, or looking at, because it may not actually be from the person that is saying it. AI is a big one for that these days, and we have to be cautious of those sort of things, that what you're looking at is real.
Yes, absolutely. It's amazing how good AI can be at the moment.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Forrest.Chat Soapbox is a one-man band, and it does take money to actually make this run. I'm looking for people who want to donate to that cause. The first thing I'm going for is some software as a service, which is to enable the streaming. There's a couple of different options down there for these sorts of amounts of money that I'm looking at to cover effectively 1 year of doing this. If you want to donate, then by all means, I welcome those donations. I do not accept donations that have any conditions attached to them. You can go to PayPal and pay to hello@Forrest.Chat, and if PayPal doesn't suit, just get on to hello@Forrest.Chat. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you very much, Daniel. I'll get back to showing the two of us. There we go. Wonderful.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and yeah, it was a great chat, and yeah, I hope that a couple of the other council members do have the chance, in the near future, to jump on board with you and have their ability to be able to answer the same sort of questions, and you can as an elector, get a really good idea of what we are representing.
Fantastic. That's exactly what this is about. Thank you for your time, Daniel.